What will Hard Knocks reveal about the Dallas Cowboys defense? We getting ready to get right into it. Boss Cowboy Sports, where your voice matters. Let's go. So getting right into it, the defense is the major concern of the fans. So obviously I did a couple of breakdowns on what Hard Knocks will reveal about the offensive coaches, which most people shouldn't be too concerned with that because pretty much it's under control. It's going to work pretty much, pending injury. But the defense concerns. So if you watch the other videos, thank you. But this is the one where you want to really lock in because we go kind of get into the issues with the defense and what can Hard Knocks reveal to us. Because I said in previous videos, you don't want to look under the hood of a car, and generally unless there's issues, right? Or you're a mechanic. So with the offense, no need. Defense, yeah, Hard Knocks is going to help. It's going to reveal a lot. So getting right into it, looking at the Dallas Cowboys defensive coaches and understanding, Boss Cowboy philosophy is kind of simple. First, you judge players by individual performances, but judge coaches by the group. So that's something that I always do, and I try to stay consistent to that basic principle where I look at the group that's under you and their performance to determine your value. So obviously, even talking about defense, it does still start with Mike McCarthy being a offensive coach, and he came up as an offensive coach. Let's just be honest, defense really never was his strong suit, even at Green Bay. He's won a lot, but there's been consistent critiques on him on the defense not matching the offensive side of the ball. He's also, for a majority of his career, has been a 3-4 defensive coach. So even coming in 2020, that explains his preference to Mike Nolan to run a system that he trusts, that he feels good in. But that also goes to a lack of judgment from the timing he tried to implement a 3-4 system in COVID. It was sloppy, and it showed, especially within the first 8 games. Now you started to see it improve the latter 8 games, but the damage was done. The season was almost already over, and it was almost time to mail it in. But at the same time, it still came down to the judgment of Mike McCarthy. So we have to also hold you accountable to that. But the good thing is, obviously, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones clearly stepped in. Now, a lot of people won't see that because you have to be kind of clued into the tea leaves to kind of read it correctly, in my opinion. So I always talk about this, but I'm going to reference it again today. Jerry Jones revealed his biggest regret of the Cowboys 2020 season. And it was, out of all the issues that went on, out of everything that went wrong, the number one issue that Jerry Jones had a problem with was switching from a 4-3 defense to a 3-4 defense. And so people got to understand why. You got to think about it. Your top paid player, Tank Lawrence, flourished under a 4-3 defense, which we brought on Brandon Tucker on the final word, and he expounded on the fact that it makes an exponential difference when you have your best pass rushers having their hand in the ground. So we went away from that. Jerry and Steven allowed Mike McCarthy to do that. People got to understand, they did not want to do that, but they was like, hey, we're going to sit back. We're going to let you do your thing. And they gave him the rope. But that rope hung that defense. It really did. And it wasn't just a scheme. It was effort. It was a lot of stuff, but it was also scheme. And so kind of looking back at it as we get into the defense, it's basically what we're seeing is a return back to the philosophies of Rod Marinelli. If anybody watch the Final Word, you'll always hear me and Big Game James say this is a Rod Marinelli apology tool. So they hired Dan Quinn, which basically was a 4-3 coach the last 10 years. And this article was from January 11th. That's why I highlighted it. And what's funny is I just discovered it, but it's saying exactly what I've been saying, for the last 3 months. It said Quinn was fired as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons 5 games into the 2020 campaign after having held his job since 2015, right? But forget all that. The key is the third paragraph. Notice what it says. Going with Quinn signals a return to the scheme of the Cowboys employed from 2013 to 2019. Now, I just discovered this, but I've been saying that. So, and obviously that's coming from seasoned insiders Adam Schaffner and Todd Archer. So, I mean, you're hearing a lot of other people say different stuff, but I think it's pretty clear why people should trust Boss Cowboys Sports, because, we spend time into this and we telling you right. We not making this up. All the 3-4 rumors, they gonna run maybe a little bit of that. It's gonna be minor. This is a 4-3 defense. It's no surprise. It's all out there and there's no mystery. So he employed, and going back to this article, he employed a 4-3 scheme that mostly used a single high safety look. Team owner and general manager Jerry Jones was eager to move away from the scheme the Cowboys used in McCarthy's first year. So don't believe the stuff that you're hearing out here, man. It's a lot of people that's still peddling stuff, and that's just not according to the true tea leaves of what's coming out with the Dallas Cowboys. Dan Quinn is a 4-3 defensive coach. That's exactly what he is. And that's exactly what we're returning to. But we getting into hard knocks. That's what this is about. Getting into hard knocks, and what is it going to reveal? Because that's really why everybody's here, and that's what everybody want to know. So, going with Mike McCarthy first, all right? We already kind of broke him down, and I hope everybody's with me on that so far. So now going into the top, we go deal with the top, then we go deal with the second level coaching. So breaking down Dan Quinn, I've done this before. I'm gonna run through this. So he was fired mid-season. I called him cheap seats for that, because when you hire somebody that was fired mid-season, you're picking up what somebody else considered trash, right? So in 7 years of Atlanta, only had a top 10 defense once. Defense in Atlanta was known for impossible comebacks, and Quinn has always been hands-on. So a lot of people like to give him pass and say, well, he really was the defensive coordinator. It was too hard for him, so you really can't blame him. No. You can't credit him and call him Mr. Hands-On, Mr. Wonderful, hands-on, but then we go give him a pass. You got to be very clear in how you judge, because if you're not, let's be honest what you're doing. You're being a bopper. That's what you're doing. You just riding with optimism versus logic and what they're really showing you, right? So here at Boss Cowboy Sports, we always aim to be loyal by just telling you what we see, telling you the truth, and just letting the chips fall. But we're not gonna co-sign a guy, anybody, just because they might be a favorite. That's just not our style here. So going back to it, that's the clear cons on Quinn. All right. So but it's a lot of positive too. I don't want people to think it's all bad. When you look at pros, his men love him, and that was in Atlanta, that was with Seattle, that's everywhere. So that's consistent. You also see it with the new Dallas Cowboys. Everybody talk about the new spirit that's in the building. He demands effort, and I'm gonna tell you, that's the number one thing that's gonna really turn us around. We can talk X's and O's all day. We can talk scheme all day. We can talk all of that till we blue in the face. But if them guys not playing hard and fast, it's all for nothing. So that's the number one thing we got to see out of his defense is the effort. Can you return us to the Rod Marinelli days of pants on fire, pursuit to the ball? He's a hands-on teacher. He has a very humble spirit. He gives a lot of credit to Mike McCarthy, which I think is very good people skills on his part. I do believe that if you give him the talent, he can make it all world. I think he's proven that. He taught the 4-3 system for over 10 years. That's why we calling him Rod Marinelli 2.0. Now, 2.0 because the difference between him and Rod is Quinn made a true investment into the interior, something that we didn't see under Rod. Rod had a different philosophy. He didn't really put a lot of resources in the interior. He didn't. He made it work by rotation and excellent effort. Quinn, no, he went and got Urban. He went and got Quentin. He went and got some true one techs. Some guys that, and if he can coach them up and get them to play fast, it's way better personnel than what was under Rod. That's why we upgraded it to Rod Marinelli 2.0. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. So with Hard Knocks, this is the thing that we're going to want to see. We're going to want to see George Edwards, because George Edwards, he's the senior guy. He's the guy to where pretty much if you look at his resume, he's the tide that rises all boats. Everywhere he goes, coaching in his 4-3 system, the linebackers play better, and the defense overall just plays better. So, you have, and it was calls for him to take over with Mike Nolan, and they didn't do it last year. People was already whispering halfway through the season that he should have just took over instead of allowing Mike to ride it out. But they rolled it out with Mike. But, having George in the building, the main thing we're going to want to see, because they're showing that he's coaching the linebackers. When you look closer, you'll see he's coaching the linebackers, but I want to see how close he's coaching the linebackers. That's going to be very important, and that's what Hard Knocks need to reveal, and that's why I'm so happy we get a chance to look under the hood, because if he's coaching those linebackers, we going to be okay. Because everybody that he touches does exponentially well. His track record is amazing. And it's scary because of this guy, Scott. Scott is very green. He's very green. He basically don't have a lot of experience at all as a linebackers coach. And you got to ask yourself, he was a linebackers coach in 2020, promoted from a defensive assistant linebackers coach. He was always quality control, assistant. Now you got the big job. But right when you get the big job, you also have one of the worst performances by the group. And how does Boss Cowboy judge coaches? By the group, not the individual. It's the group. Ask yourself, did LVE play better? No. Did Jalen play better? No. Was the linebacker altogether as good as they was in 2018? No. The whole group went down. So when the whole group goes down, Boss Cowboys' logic is to look at the coach. So it's gonna be very important. He's as green as that shirt you see right there. To have the right guy in the room. Like, who is the guy? And Hard Knocks is going to reveal that. Who is the guy who's day in and day out dealing with his guys? And so we got to get that question answered under Hard Knocks, and we're going to be seeing it day in and day out, which is very good because it's going to answer that question. So we also have more green, I would say. Aiden Durden, very green. I mean, very. Like, he's a diversity coach, that the Cowboys are kind of grooming from an inroads program that started in England. He's worked for the Dallas Cowboys as an intern, And then obviously he's worked under Dan Quinn. But there's some major question marks with him as well. So you had Scott previously, then you have Aiden, right? Both of these guys are super green as well, and they have very fluffy resumes. Like, they fluff their resumes up. If you go to DallasCowboys.com and read it, it said Dirty was promoted to outside linebackers coach in 2020 after serving 2 seasons as defensive assistant on Dan Quinn's staff in Atlanta. In 2019, Dirty worked with a defensive line unit that was anchored by Grady Jarrett and Tyler Davison. So when you see worked with, you got to understand that's resume stuff. That's fluffing up his worked with. Is not being directly responsible for the game of that group. And so when you look at how we're built right now, and you look at the Dallas Cowboys, you gotta say the issues that was the worst on defense is right now led with 2 super exponential green coaches. So that's just something to take a quick pause on, because that's not good. So Hard Knocks gonna have to show who's in the building for that as well. Then, as we continue, we got Leon Lett. And Leon Lett, I'm gonna be honest, he was skipped. He was done bad too, in my opinion. I said he got some of that Dun BB Part 2 treatment. Because if you look at his resume, he was more qualified than Dirty, right? He's been an assistant longer. He's worked with Rod. He's been in the room with the guys when they perform their best. And just like Dun BB in that Super Bowl, at the very last second, they stripped the ball from him and gave the job from a guy with very little coaching experience. So that goes to Quinn's judgment. That goes to Mike McCarthy. And we're going to have to see how that works out. That's why I said this is the video you need to pay attention to, because this is going to reveal what's going on inside. I really want to see how this plays out, because I get a feeling that some of these guys, like, because Leon Lett, his resume alone is something that you have to respect, even his playing resume. You know, it's like you can look at him and say, yeah, he's done it. Then you got Joe Witt. And Joe Witt has been very successful up into Atlanta, right? So I really had no problems with his Atlanta downfall, because his resume and his groups of men that he's coached have been very good just up into Atlanta last year. The issue is, though, think about this. That secondary, that was one of the worst secondaries, that was also under Dan Quinn. We acquired 2 of their players, likely going to be starters on this team. So if it's about ability, yeah, it might be some concerns. It might be some stuff, to look at. That's why I say this is the video people need to pay attention to. And notice they fluff up their resumes. Joe Witt comes to Dallas after serving in the same capacity with the Atlanta Falcons. Witt also worked on the head coach Mike McCarthy while both were in Green Bay. Beautiful thing is Joe Witt is a marriage of Dan Quinn, and he's a marriage of Mike McCarthy. Both of those believe in this guy. But just notice how they fluff up his resume. They say Witt returned to Atlanta in 2020 as the pass game coordinator coach after spending the 2019 season with the Cleveland Browns in the same capacity. Notice they skip right over to Atlanta and they go, because this coming from the DallasCowboys.com. His Cleveland unit ranked in the top 10 against the pass. They didn't say nothing about Atlanta. Obviously, because they was bad. But his overall career resume working with men is good. So sometimes it can be the talent that you're working with more than just the coaching. Right, and remember they had very young corners. They had a lot going on, man. They had a lot going on in Atlanta, and They got torched, but you can kind of see why. Then lastly, there's Al Harris. All right. So Al Harris, the fingerprints of Nashawn Wright is all on him. It's all on him. And he's the tall corner preacher. So I actually ran into Chris Harris, while he was working out. He went right over to him and told me the Dallas Cowboys didn't want me. They said they only want corners that's over 6'1". The person that's preaching that sermon is Al. So I'm gonna tell you something, because I don't like that. I don't like when you ignore all kind of film and play for measurables that you desire, because all the tall corners that he brought in are gone. Chris Westry gone. Worley's gone. Like, all these people that's supposed to be, when you got a tall corner, life is just going to be great. It's going to be tough to throw the ball on you. All these philosophies, the red zone, they're not going to be, they can handle the contested balls better. Yeah, it sounds all good in theory, but in play, who was the guys after he had all this big old, he had this big episode of I need big corners, but the guys that was out there was Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, Diggs. What happened to the big guys? So it's like, I got a bad feeling. Sometimes I say, man, is he stubborn? Does he dig too deep into his philosophies on tall corners? And if that's the case, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. So I'm keeping an eye out on him. And I'm going to say this. Nashawn Wright is going to make or break him, because that pick has his fingerprints, Al Harris fingerprints all on it. The beautiful thing now is Nashawn Wright is making him look right, at least early. But if it turns south, his career with Dallas should and will turn south. So, getting back to what we was getting into, because we said at the end, stay to the end for the bonus material on really revealing it from Hard Knocks and how to fix it. So, coaching the coaches is what we looking at. So, and you have to ask the question, will it be substitute teacher treatment? And what I mean by that is, when you get a substitute, whenever you had a teacher you respect and the substitute teacher would come in, the class would act a fool. It happens in everywhere around the country. I don't care where you're from. Substitute teachers generally did not get the respect of teachers that you knew was going to be in there. So, Hard Knocks, we got questions and we need y'all to answer it. Are these guys going to be substitute teachers, or will Hard Knocks reveal who's running the position room? So will Joe Witt be the main voice in the position room? Will we see Edwards as the main voice in the linebacker room? Will we see Dan Quinn as the main voice in the defensive line room? If we do not see that, we could be potentially dealing with substitute teachers in a defense that need real teachers. So, and this is the issue when you go with green coaches, because some people say, boss, give these guys a chance. Everybody deserves a chance. No, not everybody. Everybody don't deserve a chance. Like, on some things, when your defensive stopping the run was 31st, nah, I'm not giving new chances. I need some experience. I need teachers. Because when you a position coach, you are a teacher. One of our coaches that we brought into the University of Houston was a coach named Washburn. And I could see why he was great and why he was eventually promoted to the NFL. Because guys that he was trying to teach, Ben, he was the guy that brought in the hula hoops, where you have to run around those hula hoops and pick things off the ground full speed, because he teaching Ben. It's a teaching tool that he developed from being a long-term coach. Newbies can't do that. They have to develop ways to develop men. It doesn't just come with giving you a chance. So if it's anybody that you want to give chances to, you want to give chances to younger coaches that came from great coaches. Who is the coaching tree of Aiden and Scott? It's more failures generally. It's not a lot of greatness. So it's very important to really look at the coaching tree, and Hard Knocks, what it got to truly reveal. It got to reveal who's running the rooms. Because if the wrong people running the rooms, I'm going to just tell you, fool's gold is coming. But if the right people are running the rooms, if you seeing Dan Quinn, George Edwards, Witt as the main voices, our defense gonna be fine. If we see the effort that's preached heavily by Dan Quinn, we're gonna be fine. But Hard Knocks is giving us a peek into it. So stay with us. We got more videos coming that's gonna be breaking down a whole lot. And y'all stay up.